Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat first met in 1977. After many battles over different titles over the years, the two not only developed a strong mutual respect professionally, but often appeared to be close personal friends and allies at times, especially as of late. Nonetheless, the competitive fire still burned brightly, and Steamboat, even despite being brutally attacked by former WCW World Champion Vader, is determined to meet Flair once again for the title. Flair, having survived an attack by Vader himself, successfully defended the title against him at Super Brawl 4, setting up the renewal of a rivalry that defined a professional wrestling generation. To no one's surprise, Vader had been on a warpath since losing the world title at Starrcade. The issue with the Boss stemmed from his involvement as a special guest referee in the rematch with Flair at Super Brawl. Feeling the Boss had unfairly cost him the title, Vader has vengeance on his mind. The long-standing rivalry between Sting and Rick Rude was renewed and intensified after a six-man tag team cage match at Super Brawl, where Sting's team was victorious, but Rude attacked him afterwards, slamming the cage door in his face and delivering a rude awakening on the floor. Currently the holder of the WCW International World Championship, Rude briefly lost the title to Hiroshi Hayes in Japan, but regained it before returning to the United States to defend against Sting, the #1 contender. Cactus Jack and Max Payne nearly defeated the Nasty Boys for the World Tag Team titles at Super Brawl when out of desperation, Knobbs and Sags got themselves disqualified to retain the championships. They meet again in a no disqualification, Chicago street fight. Meanwhile, several years have passed since Brian Pillman held a singles title. He challenges WCW television champion, Lord Steven Regal, while former tag partner, Steve Austin defends the United States Championship against the returning Great Muta. Also, Johnny B. Bad takes on Diamond Dallas Page and Dustin Rhodes in a bunkhouse match against Bunkhouse Buck at Spring Stampede '94. The first ever WCW Spring Stampede opens with Diamond Dallas Page and Johnny B. Bad in singles competition. Bad surprises DDP early with several moves, causing him to retreat and regroup. They exchange mat holds and reversals, but Bad continues to gain the upper hand. DDP ultimately seizes control by pulling Bad into the corner and executing a gutbuster, followed by a back suplex. After that, he exhausts Johnny with holds until Bad delivers a dropkick. He follows up with a backdrop and some flying head scissors before landing the kiss that doesn't miss. Nevertheless, DDP spills out of the ring. Bad doesn't allow him to catch a break. He performs a dive over the ropes, sending Dallas back into the ring. DDP momentarily grabs the referee for a pause, but the referee pushes him away, and Bad executes a flying sunset flip for the victory. Brian Pillman challenges Lord Steven Regal for his television title in the next match. The match begins rapidly with Pillman attacking both Regal's arm and leg. Regal responds with uppercuts and headbutts, and he manages to catch Pillman during a leapfrog. He then spins a wild twisting Brian into a pretzel using various holds, such as a modified Regal stretch, a surfboard stretch, and a bow and arrow lock. Regal continues to thwart his comebacks with holds and a Regal roll until Pillman dropkicks him out of the air. The clock is running down, but Pillman attempts 10 punches in the corner. He realizes his error and tries a crossbody, but both competitors fall to the floor. After that, they make an effort to return to the ring, but the time limit runs out. The Chicago street fight for the WCW Tag Team titles is the next contest. Cactus Jack and Max Payne, once again, take on the Nasty Boys. Everyone begins brawling before Cactus and Max conclude their entrance. They strike each other with pool cues, pipes, and chairs. Max and Knobbs find themselves fighting near a fake souvenir stand. Knobbs strikes Max with a trash can, but Max slams him through a table. He also attempts to shove a Nasty Boys t-shirt down Knobbs' throat. Cactus and Sags join the fray, but Sags sends Jack over the rail, and they battle towards the ramp. At that moment, Sags slams a table into Cactus' head, but Jack takes it and backdrops the table onto Sags' body. However, Knobbs smashes Jack with a snow shovel, and Sags attempts to piledrive Cactus onto the table. It collapses under their combined weight, and they narrowly evade a dangerous predicament. Shags regains his footing and pushes Jack off the ramp before striking him with the shovel and pinning him for the 3 count. The U.S. champion, Steve Austin, defends his title against the Japanese legend, Great Muta, in the next contest. They trade mat holds while Parker does his best to distract Muta. Austin sends Muta to the floor, and Parker chokes him with his handkerchief. Austin then attacks Muta outside and rams him into the rail before wearing him down with holds. He locks him in an abdominal stretch, but Austin gets caught using the ropes. Muta fights back until he misses a dropkick and Parker chokes him again. Finally, Muta gains control with a spin kick, a backdrop, and a suplex, but he misses a missile dropkick. Austin attempts to lock in the Hollywood and bind, but Muta blocks it and gives Austin the stun gun. He also hits the handspring elbow and a super hurricane rana, but Parker distracts him. Muta knocks Parker down and Austin charges him, but Muta backdrops Steve over the ropes, and the ref calls for the bell. Sting and Rick Rude's saga rages in the next contest as Sting swiftly strikes Rude before he has the chance to take off his robe and backdrops him both inside and outside of the ring. After that, Sting slows down the pace of the match with frequent front face locks until Rude kneels him on the ropes. The two fighters engage in a brawl on the floor and the ramp where Rude starts to target Sting's back. He traps him in a rear chinlock and springs on Sting before showing off for the audience. Sting briefly exhibits signs of energy until Rude places him in a sleeper hold, but he escapes it early. Unfortunately, this enables Sting to hulk up and backdrop Rude, who lands awkwardly on his leg. Next, the referee goes down after being struck by an Irish whip and getting caught in a Stinger splash. Sting places Rude in the Scorpion Deathlock, but Race and Vader suddenly appear. Sting battles both of them until Rude hits his knee and tries for the Rude Awakening. Race grabs a chair intending to strike Sting, but Sting avoids it and Harley mistakenly hits Rude instead. Sting seizes the opportunity by covering Rude for the victory. No title on the line in the next contest. It's a bunkhouse match between its namesake, Bunkhouse Buck, and the son of a plumber and bunkhouse king, Dusty Rhodes. The natural, Dustin Rhodes, is in action. They fight both in and out of the ring, and Buck performs as if he were intoxicated. However, Dustin fails to land a crossbody and falls to the floor. Parker strangles Rhodes, and Buck smashes a small board over his back before scraping his forehead with it. Dustin is bleeding, so Buck targets the cut and subsequently assaults Dustin's leg. He crashes it into the rail and the post, but Dustin seizes a packet of powder and blinds Buck. It's not sufficient because Buck takes off his belt and lashes Dustin before striking him in the groin. Dustin ultimately retaliates and pays Buck back by whipping him with a belt. He also splits Buck's forehead open with the buckle. Then, Rhodes removes his boot and drives it into the cut. Buck searches a bit for a foreign object but can't seem to find it. He must head back to the ring empty-handed, and Rhodes executes a bulldog. Parker then diverts Dustin's attention, so Rhodes also whips him, but Parker gives Buck some brass knuckles that he uses to secure the victory. Former WCW champion, Vader looks for revenge against the Boss in the next match. The Boss sends Vader in and out of the ring with clotheslines and punches. They exchange stiff strikes, and Vader impressively slams Boss over the ropes. Vader then tries to dive from the ramp, but he face plants in the ring. They brawl to the floor again, and Vader crashes into the guardrail, prompting Boss to pick him up and slam him on it. Following that, they return to the ring and exchange more brutal punches and headbutts until Vader is bleeding from 2 spots on his face. Vader concludes by backdropping Boss over the ropes, suplexing him back inside, and then hitting a splash. Boss retaliates again, but Vader delivers another hard clothesline and goes for a Vader bomb. However, Boss interrupts him and slams him down before delivering a DDT off the turnbuckles. Boss also performs a flying tackle and attempts another, but Vader catches him in a power slam. Next, Vader executes the Vader bomb, but Boss kicks out at 2. Realizing that's insufficient, Vader climbs to the top and hits a moonsault for the victory. After the match, Race grabs the handcuffs and the nightstick. He attempts to cuff the Boss, but Boss fights back and strikes both Race and Vader. Then, Boss attacks Harley with the nightstick until Bockwinkel enters the ring and tells him to stop. Vader glares at the boss, and Bockwinkel orders him to leave. In the main event, Ric Flair defends the WCW title against the rival of his illustrious career, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Steamboat continues to annoy Flair with flying head scissors and headlocks, leading to them slapping each other. He consistently brings Flair to the mat and slows things down, prompting Rick to attempt to throw him over the ropes. Ricky executes a skin the cat move and returns to the mat holds until he fails to connect with a dropkick. Flair responds with chops, punches, knee drops, and several pin attempts, but they both tumble over the ropes during a crossbody. Then, Flair tries to pile-drive Ricky on the floor, but Steamboat counters with a backdrop and goes after a chair. Ricky notices Bockwinkel, so he shifts to splash Flair instead and crashes into the guardrail. Nevertheless, Ricky regains control in the ring, spins Flair around, and even applies the figure 4. Flair escapes by poking him in the eye and ultimately secures his own figure 4. Steamboat reaches the ropes, delivers a superplex to Flair, and puts him in a double chicken wing. He transitions it into a pin for a 3 count, but both men's shoulders are down on the mat. Referee Randy Anderson arrives and discusses with Nick Patrick, who announces that both men were down, resulting in a draw. Following the match, Bockwinkel clarifies to Tony and Bobby that in the event of a double pin, the decision favors the champion. Nick states that Flair will keep his championship until he consults with the board. After the match, Bockwinkel explains to Tony and Bobby that the decision goes to the champion in the case of a double pin. Nick says Flair will retain his championship until he confers with the board. Dustin Rhodes' feud with Bunkhouse Buck carried over into the following month at Slamboree in a bull rope match, while Cactus Jack continued to be a thorn in the side of the Nasty Boys as he, along with Kevin Sullivan, would take away the tag team championships. Due to the inconclusive finish to the match between Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat, they would meet several weeks later on an episode of WCW Saturday Night. Flair emerged victorious and went on to defend the WCW World title against the returning Barry Windham at Slamboree. Issues between U.S. champion Steve Austin and Steamboat stemmed from Austin's resentment of Steamboat being named #1 contender to Flair's world title instead of him. They would feud for the next several months over the U.S. title before Steamboat would defeat Austin at Clash of the Champions 28, claiming the championship for a 4th time. However, Steamboat would be forced to relinquish the title less than a month later due to an injury that would ultimately lead to his retirement. After Sting's victory over Rick Rude, Sting refused to accept the WCW International World Championship upon knowledge of Rude's injury status. Like Steamboat, Rude would be physically unable to compete and forced into retirement, and Sting went on to defeat Vader to claim the title at Slamboree. This set the stage for a world title unification match between Sting and Flair amid rumors of an incoming movement of Hulkamania in World Championship Wrestling.